This is Paul Turner, the Immigration Barrister at Imperium Chambers. If you have an immigration problem, please get in touch with me and I'll do my best to help you. Today I'm going to be talking about the government's plans to target, in particular, Albanians. At the outset, I would advise any Albanian who is thinking of making an application to do so as quickly as possible, as it appears that the government have decided to demonise Albanians, something which I find to be particularly offensive and potentially crypto-racist in singling out one nationality. In short, the government has made what are quite terrifying plans, very clear, to get rid of Albanians who have entered the UK through illegal means and claimed asylum. Even though, of course, as we all know, there are no current legal ways an Albanian can claim asylum from Albania. I am not sure I am the only one getting increasingly uncomfortable about the way that Albanians are being singled out and targeted repeatedly by the government. They have essentially become the national kicking post. If there's a problem, it must be an Albanian problem, not anything to do with the NHS or anything to do with the cost of living crisis. Obviously those are far more important things, but harder to deal with. The impact on Albanians living in the United Kingdom is likely to be severe. I cannot imagine any other national group being singled out in this way, although I suppose we've seen similar, though slightly less sustained and high-level attacks on Romanians and Bulgarians many years ago. The government has stated that they wish to make a new dedicated unit of some 400 caseworkers who will be devoted to dealing with just cases from Albania. New guidance will be issued to these caseworkers to make it crystal clear that Albania is a safe country. This is notwithstanding the fact that about half of the claims from Albania are actually successful. A new expedited process of some sort is planned in order to decide Albanian cases in weeks rather than months, or in reality years as things currently stand, given the backlog. Obviously, given this government's fanciness for making announcements, that no details have been actually put into or announced as to how this is going to work. What has happened is that there is a new agreement with Albania which has been reached, which will involve immigration officers operating in Tirana. It is not quite clear what they will be doing there, as most Albanians arrive via the channel, not on direct flights. But I'm sure they'll have a lovely time, as I'm told Tirana is quite a nice place. But it will obviously cost money. The agreement reaffirms, apparently, the UK and Albanian commitment to the international trafficking agreements and to the ECHR. It also commits to the UK to supporting the Albanian government's efforts to assist trafficking victims, although it is silent on whether that involves any new money. Obviously it ought to, and given the fact that they've given the Rwandans 120 million and the French God knows how many millions, it's only right that they ought to. When we turn to cases of human trafficking, now they're going to require objective evidence of modern slavery. Now, it's hard to imagine what this really means in practice, given that there is very rarely going to be any objective or independent third-party evidence of this sort of crime. It's hardly likely that someone who's a slaver is going to go to the police and say, actually, I'm a slaver. It would be like police officers turning a blind eye to domestic violence because the perpetrator simply denies it. I imagine this line comes from one of the Prime Minister's speechwriters beefing up some intended tweak to the guidance to caseworkers. These measures will apparently lead to the vast majority of Albanian asylum claims being declared clearly unfounded, something that will in effect deny people an in-country right of appeal to an independent judge and leave them only the option of seeking judicial review if they want to try and stay in the United Kingdom, which is expensive and costly and unnecessary in my view. Sunak has pledged to return thousands of Albanians over the coming months with weekly flights until all the Albanians in our backlog have been removed. This is another bold commitment, given that there are currently 22,900 Albanians awaiting an initial decision, and only 175 Albanians were removed in 3 months, April, May and June of 2022. As usual, it's big words from the little man. At the current rate, even if they were all refused asylum, it would take 30 years fulfils Rishi Sunak's commitment. I doubt whether he'll be Prime Minister in 30 years. What makes it worse is that half of Albanian asylum claims for the groups that arrived in previous years were actually granted in the last year, and yet more will undoubtedly be won on appeal. There are obviously genuine refugees and victims of modern slavery arriving here from Albania, and this focus on refusal and removal rather than proper decision making is likely to be self-fulfilling, leading to some genuine refugees and trafficking victims being returned to face serious harm. Massively increasing removals, massively increasing decision making, doubling workplace enforcement visits, admittedly at a very low level now, and applying resources into the Rwanda removals, which never seem to have taken place, all seem quite a lot for a dysfunctional department in my opinion, let alone before we start on Albania. But the measures announced by Sunak do not seem to be capable of themselves to meet his pledge to clear the asylum backlog by 2023. Or even get it down to around 20,000 cases or so. The problem is there is simply no details on how removals or how these decisions are going to be made quickly and so dramatically increased. I simply don't understand how they're going to do it, and I've seen no evidence that anything's actually taken place. As I say, both of these tasks are huge, given the place that the Home Office is in right now, which is struggling under the asylum backlog, delays in making applications and the problems as a result of the war in Ukraine. The planned staffing increase it sounds impressive, but will be hard to achieve in a short period of time, unless you're not going to train people. That wouldn't surprise me, or you'll give them limited training. Because if you're dealing with people's asylum cases or trafficking cases, you're going to want to make sure, I would hope, that the people making the decisions are properly qualified and properly trained. Otherwise you're likely to end up with very poor decisions, and you'll end up with more cases in court and less removals. So I will update you when I hear more about this. I thought I'd do a particular video on this particular group of people because it seems to me that they are being demonised. I'm not quite sure why they've been picked out of the hat, but they have. And it's important, if you are Albanian and you are thinking of making an application, you do so as quickly as possible so you're not caught up in this whatever plan or whatever actions they actually put into place. Thank you for watching this video. For more updates, please subscribe to my channel. Do stay safe. This is Paul Turner, the Immigration Barrister at Imperium Chambers.